Howdy, Immortallium here, and today I'm doing another MVM review, this time reviewing Kokoro Connect and its OVAs. And let's just say, this is the first series that in a while that I've done no prior research before watching, which, you know, immediately brought up some confusion given how the series opens up. So let me just start off with a summary. So what is Kokoro Connect about? It's about some high school students. And they come to school one day and they realize that they are the subject of a new phenomena. And what this phenomena is that every so often their personalities will change. Or I think they call it personality swapping, but it's more that they are body swapping in that, you know, they're themselves one moment and then they suddenly become another person the next moment, you know, and they are in the other person's body, etc, etc. And this is being done by this being called Heartseed, who basically wants to observe them and have some fun while all of this phenomena is happening. And you know, while all of this is happening, of course, they have to go through a whole bunch of drama, etc, etc. So that's the plot of Kokoro Connect. First thing I want to say about this plot is that it doesn't actually stick to that one phenomena. I expected the whole series to be body swapping, but in fact, over the course of the series, there are actually 4 separate phenomena, each of which, you know, challenges the protagonists in their own way. So I found that to be quite interesting. But I will say there are some moments of weird pacing. For example, you know, at the beginning, they seem surprisingly accepting of the fact that they are body swapping. And there's a couple of confessions later in the series where people confess, you know, their deep, dark sins, in which people confess their trauma, you know, their issues, etc, etc, surprisingly easily, and I just found that to be a bit awkward in terms of pacing. So yeah, that was surprising. But besides that, the story is, you know, good enough. You know, each of the phenomena has its own, you know, charm and interest in it. And in fact, actually, I found that body swapping one probably to be the least interesting of the phenomena. The other 3 phenomena are actually much more interesting, in my opinion. So that's the actual story. One thing I will say that I found a bit disappointing is that we never find out who Heartseed is, or why he's there, besides the fact that he wants to have fun, and to find out about humans, etc, etc. So I did find that a bit annoying. Now the characters themselves, the characters here are the most important, I would argue, in the show, and some of them serve very well. Our lead character is Taichi. And Taichi is he's one of those really goodwill protagonists. You know, he wants to help everyone as much as he can, to a fault. In fact, he wants to help them so much that he's willing to put himself into danger. He's willing to humiliate himself, etc, etc. And you know, he was a decent enough character. Actually, I did find him charming, and I liked him, etc, etc. But I will say my favorite character in the series was a girl called Inaba. Now, Inaba, how can I phrase this now? Okay, let's start off with something that's actually I found really weird, because after a while I realized that she was a bit of a tsundere. Now, not to the same extent as, you know, other tsunderes. She is a bit physically violent, but not so much. Yet I found her to be very, very likable, and the reason for that is she's very objective. She's kind of harsh in that, you know, she's forces people to kind of confront what's happening to them. She's very much the leader in these situations, even more so than Taichi. And I just found her to be a very charming and likable character overall. So yeah, I really liked her. Iori then. Iori is another girl, and she is the romantic interest for Taichi. Let's just say my problem with her isn't that she's not an interesting character. She is actually an interesting character. Is the fact that even this show seems to have trouble understanding what she is. In fact, actually, she herself has trouble understanding what she is. You know, is she a very nice and sweet girl? Or is she aggressive and angry all the time? Or, you know, is she a klutz? Or is she, you know, particularly smart, etc, etc. She seems to go through all these different persona, and even though that is actually part of the story, I found that to make her a very awkward character to relate to. So I found her a bit problematic. And then I will say the last two characters of the group are my least favorite, and I found them to be the least interesting. Yui, who is this girl who, she used to be a karate expert, but a trauma happened, and now she has a fear of men. And Aoki, who is, I think even later in the show they say that he is the least interesting character. He has a crush on Yui, and really that's his entire purpose. And those two characters, okay, let me just say, considering this is only a 5-person group, it feels like as if the group is actually split up into 2 bubbles. One bubble containing Taichi, Inaba, and Iori, and the other bubble containing Aoki and Yui. The reason for that is it feels like the only development in relationships are between those characters in each bubble. Besides that, I feel like they don't really interact with each other too much. Like, okay, they interact, but they don't really develop because of the other group. So, I found that a bit awkward. I would have liked a lot more chemistry between the characters, particularly between each group, because actually there is a good bit of chemistry between the characters in those groups, or those bubbles. I know it's a bit complicated sounding, but I'm sure you catch my drift. So those are the characters. Animation-wise, this was done by Silverlinks, which I had not been familiar with actually before this series. And I will say there's an immediate issue here, and that is the art style in the series is very reminiscent of K-On! And of course, I'm sure you know the problem I'm already facing here, and that is, if the characters look like K-On!, immediately I'm going to be comparing the animation studio to Kyoto Animation. Which of course, most animation studios can't do. Kyoto Animation is an exceptionally strong animation studio, that have large budgets, etc., etc. In this series, the characters go off model every so often. Their movements aren't as fluid as that seen in Kyoto Animation, so it doesn't hold up in comparison. But it is a decent looking series. There's good detail in the background, the character designs are pretty nice, even if they go off model every so often. Although I want to point out in the OVA, it seems like the quality is a little higher. The characters don't really go off model at all, and they seem a bit cleaner and slightly more detailed, so I just want to point that out in the OVAs. And actually that's another thing I better point out quickly. I know it's a bit disjointed here. I expected the OVAs to be side stories to the actual TV show, as with most other OVAs, but in fact it's an actual continuation. The TV series does not end. The OVAs are what ends. So if you want the complete Kokoro Connect experience, you're gonna have to get the OVAs. The OVAs are an actual legitimate part of the actual TV series, and in fact, actually, I would argue that the OVAs are actually better than the TV series. The phenomenon that was introduced in the OVAs is probably the most interesting of all the phenomenon. Not only that, but most of the pacing issues actually worked themselves out in the OVAs. The only episode that had a bit of a pacing issue was that last one. The very last episode, a lot of stuff happens that kind of feels a bit rushed to me. But besides that, the previous 3 episodes are actually pretty well paced. So I will say that I enjoyed the OVAs more than I did the actual TV series itself. So yeah, I found the animation to be of a little higher quality in the OVAs. That's my basic kind of point. Music-wise, the music in itself in the actual TV series, it's kind of, there's nothing really that stands out. It's kind of okay. But it does serve its purpose. It's not annoying, that's the best way to put it. But what I found really surprising is, given that this is essentially a 17-episode series, 13 episodes of the actual TV series, and 4 episodes of the OVA, there are actually 2 openings and 4 endings, with each ending kind of being, each phenomenon. So I found that a bit surprising. Now that, the endings actually are quite enjoyable in terms of music, while I found the openings actually surprisingly bland in comparison. Basically that's the best way to put it. I found the ending music to be a lot more interesting than I did the opening music, so that's the best way to put it. So music-wise, it's an okay series. I doubt you're going to walk away from the series humming any of its tunes, besides maybe some of those ending animations. Now, the voice cast, I watched this in English dub, and how can I put this now? Okay, I'm a fan of Greg Ayres, Monica Reel, and Lucy Christian, and Greg Ayres voices Taichi, Monica Rial voices Iori and Lucy Christian voices Inaba. And I really like their performances. I'm a fan of theirs, so I found them very enjoyable. But the rest of the cast is kind of bland and uninteresting. I've been told that it's probably better to watch this series in Japanese, and I would say I wouldn't 100% agree with that. If you are a fan of Greg Ayres, Monica Rial, or Lucy Christian, I would argue that you should watch this series in English. But if you don't really care about who Greg Ayres, Lucy Christian, or Monica Rial is, yeah, you should probably watch this series in Japanese. That's the best way to put that. So overall, what do I think of Kokoro Connect? I think Kokoro Connect it's a good series. There's a lot of interesting ideas introduced in the phenomenons, but I do find that the pacing in the actual TV series itself to be problematic. I also find it annoying that we never find out who Heartseed is or why he's doing this beyond the fact that he's enjoying, the entertainment that this creates. The animation itself, I think if they had just kind of stayed away from the same-ish kind of character designs as K-On!, they wouldn't have drawn as much a comparison to Kyoto Animation. Now the animation isn't exceptional by any means, but it is quite good in general. That's what I would say about the animation. Characters in general, likable. In particular, Taichi and Inaba. Iori is a bit problematic, and then the other two are just bland. And the voice acting itself, if you care about Greg Ayres, Lucy Christian, Monica Rial, watch in English. If not, watch in Japanese. And the music is pretty decent for the endings, but kind of uninteresting in the rest. So that's my review of Kokoro Connect. If you are interested in picking up Kokoro Connect, definitely check the links in the description below. I will include some links to websites where you can purchase Kokoro Connect and its OVA. The one thing I will say is that I wish MVM had combined the OVAs with the actual TV series release, but considering in America as well, they released them separately. Maybe it's part of a licensing thing. So, and I will say that I enjoy the OVAs more, so it is actually worth more money, I'd say. Anyway, my point is, if you want to pick those up, definitely check the description. There will be links in there below, and you can see which one you want to pick up, from which distributor you want to pick up. And that's my review of Kokoro Connect. Hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.